Welcome to Upleveling, the podcast dedicated to building better leaders, smarter systems, and bigger results. We're at the end of the year and everyone is talking about goals. They're talking about whether you're hitting your year-end goals or setting new goals for the upcoming year. But before you do anything, I want you to think differently about goal setting. You've probably sat down to set goals and walked away with a list of revenue numbers, and then nothing really changes. And today I'm going to talk about why that happens and why, for many small businesses, issue-based planning is actually more powerful than traditional goal planning. We're going to talk about the difference between goal planning and issues-based planning, how to figure out what's actually in your way, and then I'm going to give you a framework to work through it. So this is something I learned probably about 10 years ago. And when this came to my attention, it was like a light bulb went off because just like you, I had been setting these financial goals and I was not reaching the goal. And the reason is there were so many things in the way that had to be solved before I could even start thinking about something like revenue goals. Let's break down first some definitions and how I want you to think about goal setting. We're going to talk about the difference between goals, issues, and projects. Those are the three areas that you need to break down so that you can actually get traction in your business and improve it. So a goal is somewhere that you want to go. So think about I want to hit $1 million in revenue. I want a 20% profit margin, things like that. An issue is things that are getting in the way of that goal. Things like hiring or messy onboarding, underpricing, you're constantly reworking your projects. These are issues that have to be solved in order to hit the goal. And then projects. Projects are what you're going to do to fix an issue. That's things like building out a hiring process, redesigning your onboarding, or revamping your pricing strategy. So their projects are things you're going to do to fix the issue that's in the way of hitting the goal. Many business owners kind of mix all three together and then feel very overwhelmed and don't actually accomplish anything because they're just focused on the big goal of reaching $1 million and not the goal of putting out all of these fires or issues that are in the way of reaching the $1 million. And let me just throw out there, I'm just using $1 million as an example. It could be $10 million. It doesn't really matter. It's the fact that we always want to focus on this big financial goal or financial number and not focus on the issues at hand that we need to solve that are getting in our way. And honestly, traditional goal setting often fails small business owners. Large companies can do more goal-based planning because they already have stable systems or teams in place. They have department heads. Everything's already mapped out for their foundation. And so when they have those things, they can set financial goals or KPI-based goals, and it's going to work really well for them. Whereas on the other hand, small businesses, they're often still building the basics. They're still building the foundation. And so setting a pure financial goal is not going to work if you don't have the foundation in place. And building those basics are things like hiring, delivering, onboarding, pricing, all of these things that, again, these larger companies already have in place. So at a small business level, you have to start solving issues before you can start hitting goals. And a common pattern I see is, an owner may say, we want to hit $1 million this year, but they don't have the team in place to produce the results. They don't have a consistent sales process. They don't have a marketing strategy that is bringing consistent leads. And so without solving those things, they're never going to hit the big target. So how do we figure out the real issues in the way? This actually may be the hardest part, but more than likely if you just take the time to sit down and think about it. So I want to help you uncover what are the underlying issues for you to solve. We're going to walk through this and call this issue discovery. So you want to ask yourself questions like, where are balls getting dropped? Where are you losing money? Where are you spending all of your time? Where do clients feel frustrated or confused? Where do you constantly feel confused? So putting all of these things on paper are going to help you see what's the issues you have to solve. And we want to make sure that we're focusing on what is the root cause and not on just the symptom. So what do I mean by that? So let's say you say, I'm always behind on invoicing. That's actually the symptom. You have to get to the root cause of that. Is it because you're not putting time on your calendar? Because there's not a clear process? Because you don't have financial systems in place? Or maybe there's no clear ownership of who needs to be doing invoicing? There's a ton of different causes that are causing the symptom. So you want to make sure you're getting to the bottom of the root cause. So once you go through that process of answering all of those questions, and remember, we're answering like, where are we frustrated? Where are our clients frustrated? Where is our team frustrated? Now what we want to do to get more clarity around this is group this into 3 different buckets. So our first bucket is going to be people. So all of your issues that have to do with hiring or your roles, training your team, holding them accountable, anything like that is going to go into our people bucket. Next, we have process. So that's things like our onboarding's not happening, our delivery is not getting done on time, our billing's not happening, how we communicate to our customers or to each other internally, where you're dropping the ball. Those might be process related. And then our last bucket is going to be numbers. That's things like pricing or our margins. Our cash flow is off. We don't have enough cash flow. Or reporting. We're not looking at financials every single month. Those are all going to be numbers based. So you should then get all of those issues that we uncovered, put them into one of the 3 buckets. You want to make sure that you're getting everything out of your head and into the bucket so you can get clear on what has to happen next, what needs to be resolved. Because what happens as a business owner is you know what these issues are, but they're all in your head and they're causing all of this frustration for you, but they're not on paper anywhere. So we're going to categorize all of our issues, get them out of our head onto paper so we can start solving them. What we want to do before we start solving them is we want to prioritize what issues deserve your focus first, because not all issues are created equal. So we have our list and we want to start prioritizing what has to happen first. We're going to give all of our issues a score of 1 to 3. So we're going to ask these questions. Does this issue cost me real money right now? That can be things like lost sales, refunds, scope creep, write-offs, anything like that. Does this create major stress for me or my team? That's going to give us another point. And then, does solving this unlock future growth? That's going to get another point. So I want you to go through all of your issues in your different buckets, and you're going to rank them 1 to 3 based on those criteria. If your issue hits all 3, money, stress, and growth, it's a top priority. If it hits just 1, it may need to wait. And the reason is you can't focus on all of the issues at one time. We're only going to focus on our 3s first because it's going to have the highest impact. If you try and focus on everything at once, you're going to get nothing done. So what we want to do is get into the routine of picking one issue, solving it, and then moving to the next. This is how we improve our business. This is how we get traction and how we're going to be able to start setting financial goals instead of just issue-based goals. Now we have our issues and we have our priority list. What we want to do is turn our issues into projects. So let's say that our issue is we're always hiring in a panic and we never hire the right people. We may set an issue-based goal that is somewhere along the lines of, we want to create and document a simple hiring process and an interview process for our next role by March 31st. Even though this isn't a financial goal where you always hear the term SMART goal, that's something that you can measure and typically has numbers related to it, you still can set these issues-based goals. You do want to definitely have a timeline related to it and someone who owns it. We'll get into that a little bit more, but I think that's kind of the problem, is we're always taught that we have to have SMART-based goals, but that doesn't always apply when we're doing issue-based planning. So let's get back to our example that we want to create and document our hiring and interview process. So we may break that down into projects of saying, okay, I want to document the KPIs and goals for this role, and I want to create a scorecard for the role. And then maybe I want to write a clear job description that is going to help me attract the right person. I want to create a process on who is going to post this job and where they're going to post it. I want to write standard interview questions, so I'm asking everyone the same questions. Or I want to decide who's responsible for interviewing at what stages in my business. All of these are going to be projects that you're going to solve. And so what happens is you can assign these different projects to different people. You as the owner don't have to be responsible for all of these things. And that's why it's so important to break these issues up into projects, because you may do part of the project, but you may be able to assign other projects to your team members. Whoever is the best suited for that project is who should be assigned to it. So what we've done in this example is we've taken our issue and we've turned it into an issue-based goal, and then we've turned that into a project. And like I said, every project then is going to have a timeline of when it's due and who's responsible for doing it. And the more that we do this, we start to solve our issues. So let's give another example. Let's say that your issue is that your new clients are confused and emailing you constantly. Your issue-based goal may be that you want to build and implement an onboarding process with emails and videos for all new clients. So then your project is then broken down and say, okay, well, step one project is map out the 5 steps in my onboarding process. And then another project for draft the email templates for each stage of onboarding. Next project may be automate the steps when a new client signs a proposal of what happens next. These are all of the projects that you're going to complete that is going to reach your issue-based goal and solve the issue. So you can see as you start to work through these, number one, it does a couple different things. So number one, it breaks these issues down into things that you can actually do, because sometimes we think we have this huge issue and we have no idea how to solve it. But when we take the time to put the issue on paper and say, okay, here's the 10 projects inside of this issue that have to be done to solve it, it becomes doable. And it gets it out of your head. It becomes delegatable. I don't know if that's a word. It becomes where you can delegate this to your team members. So you're not the only one solving these projects and getting things done. You're able to get other people to help you. The goal isn't necessarily to have better onboarding. The goal is to build and implement an onboarding process that removes the specific pain. And doing all of these things, you're building a business. You're building solid processes, and these are the things you have to have in place before you can start to grow or scale. Because that's where a lot of people fail. They just want to grow, and they're growing top line where everything else feels chaotic. What I want you to do is build the business as you're growing. So as you're adding revenue, you're adding solid processes and team members that can do the work. It's going to make it a lot easier to grow and scale once you get all of this done. So I've given you a framework of how to start solving these issues in your business. What I want you to do is create a schedule for the next 90 days. You can even go ahead and pick a financial outcome of saying, okay, in the next 90 days, I want to hit $250,000 in revenue, or I want to maintain a 15% profit margin. Then what you want to do is say, I'm going to take my top 3 to 5 issues and I'm going to block out the outcomes, either, again, using money, stress, or growth filter. And then you're going to break those issues into projects. So we've got goal, issue, project. Your projects are going to say what exactly needs to happen, what needs to be built, what needs to be changed, who owns it, and when's the deadline. And then you want to have weekly milestone check-ins. So every single week, you need to be checking in with your team on these projects of where are you at? Has this gotten done? When is the due date? Things like that. And that framework is going to allow you to solve issues and improve the business. Now, before we wrap this up, let's talk about the most common mistakes that I see in planning. Normally, the number one is setting too many goals. Like, listen, I know you're a business owner. That means you're ambitious and you want to do things and reach goals. But if you have too many goals, nothing is going to move in the direction you want. Next is staying too vague. If you say things like, oh, I want better marketing or I want more sales, that's not specific enough. You need to get very specific in these goals, whether they're financial or issue-based. Also, setting dollar goals, but ignoring the underlying issues. You're never going to reach the dollar goal if you don't solve the issue. And then last, constantly switching priorities. You're never actually finishing any of these projects. If you have these mistakes in your business, it's going to be much harder for you to grow and reach your goals. So think about those things and how you can stay on track. And we're going to stay on track by taking our issues and prioritizing them, breaking them into projects, and then assigning them to our team. Your role in this is not to personally fix everything. Your role is to decide what matters, set clear priorities, and then make sure the projects are actually moving forward. So the question you have to ask is, what are the top 1 to 3 issues that, if solved this quarter, would make everything else in my business easier, more profitable, or less stressful? So I hope that I've given you more ideas on how to do planning and really what is the difference between goal-based planning and issues-based planning, and how issues-based planning is going to be more effective for you at this stage, and then how you can turn those issues into projects. This is exactly how I've grown my business, and I would be happy to share with you a template that we use to do this. It's a simple Google Sheet. You don't need fancy software. You don't need a ton of different tools. A Google Sheet will get this done for you. If you want help turning this into a real plan for your business and not just ideas on paper, shoot me an email at info@AlignCPA, and I'll give you more information on how we solve this for our clients as well. Thanks for tuning in to Upleveling. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more entrepreneurs like you discover the show. Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with us on social media or visit AlignCPA.com for resources and updates. Until next time, keep leading, optimizing, and upleveling.